Australian bush, home of the Australian eucalypt, the giant mountain ash and the alpine ash, the stately blue gum, the messmate and the stringy bark. Nature's bounteous heritage, trees, timber. From the mountain forests of Victoria, from towering range and timbered gully, from the snowline to the seaboard, comes a seemingly endless supply of forest wealth. Day after day, year after year, timber trailers converge from all parts of the forest, conveying their loads to the sawmills to be cut into sawn and dressed timber, destined for house building and furniture making, and for the countless variety of purposes for which wood is used in commerce and industry. Whether it is your home or my home, or the thousands of houses and buildings being erected from one end of the state to the other, all requiring the use of Australian hardwood in some form or another, back of all is the Australian bush, the forest. Between these two, the forest and the home, lie two vast fields of science and industry. On the one hand, the Forests Commission of Victoria, responsible for the management and protection and development of the forest reserves of the state. On the other hand, the timber industry, engaged in the conversion and commercial marketing of timber and wood products.
Conversion centre at Heyfield in Gippsland, 9 sawmills operate with log supplies drawn from the mountain ranges to the north. The logs for milling at this centre are transported 50 or 60 miles from the cutting areas on Connors Plains, nearly 5,000 feet above sea level, to the log dumps in the mill yards. With logs offloaded, the trailer assembly is lifted forward, and the truck again leaves on its 60-mile journey to the cutting areas. Steam and diesel-driven plants operating the intricate system of driving shafts, wheels and belts coupled from one end of the mill to the other provide the power for the huge saws and automatic conveyor mechanism. Logs up to 5 feet in diameter and 6 to 8 tons in weight are handled mechanically on the breaking down carriage. As the flitches come off, the log is turned over and brought into position for the following cuts. The temperature of the giant twin saws must be frequently tested, as uneven heating could quickly cause disastrous buckling of the steel. With the saws at full speed, this is no job for a new hand. Or is it? And over here, meet the doctor, the saw doctor. On his precision sharpening of the teeth and the delicate setting of the razor-edge points depends the cutting of exact timber sizes throughout the mill. The large flitches from the breaking down saws are passed through the number 1 and number 2 benches, progressively reducing the timber to the smaller sizes. Here is the number 1 bench in operation. In Victoria, the annual output of sawn hardwood timber from state forests has reached the record of 225 million super feet, representing a value to the industry of over 11 million pounds per annum. Forest utilization on the part of the Forest Commission and the development of the sawmilling industry are closely coordinated. The Forest Commission is dependent upon the sawmilling industry to utilize the resources of the forest, while the industry itself is dependent upon the ability of the Commission's organization to provide and make accessible adequate log supplies. At least 1/4 of the total annual output of sawn timber in Victoria is selected for further machining into flooring, weatherboards, dowel rods and mouldings. The timber to be used for this purpose is first put into open stacks at the various mills for natural air drying. After about 4 to 12 months in the open air, according to end dimensions, the moisture content of the boards is reduced to 18 to 25%. The timber is then placed in kilns, where the moisture content is further reduced to 12% in from 2 to 4 days, after which it is finally placed in the reconditioning chambers for about 24 hours to complete the seasoning process. Other sizes, cut principally for use in building construction, are assembled for transport by road or rail, as load after load joins the continuous stream of sawn timber required every hour of every day to meet the increasing demands of our expanding domestic and industrial development. The days of the slow-moving horse teams and timber trams are past. The friendly whistle of the steam loco no longer sends its welcoming echoes through the bush. Today, in their place, is heard only the roar and whine of powerful engines, for the forest is now patterned with a vast network of thousands of miles of logging roads, making possible fast and economic transportation even in the most remote areas. Although practically all sawmilling operations are now restricted to locations and centres outside the forest reserves, a few of the old bush mills, however, are still in operation. And here in northeastern Victoria, high up on the slopes of the Australian Alps, some of the pioneering conditions of the bush community still exist. In winter, the settlement is under snow. In summer is the constant fear of forest fire. No amenities as we know them for the families. No school for the children. These folk take their hardships and their happiness as they come, as only those born and bred in the bush know how. And naturally, welcome a yarn with the driver. In this alpine country, nature at least offers some compensation. The magnificent mountain scenery, the ever-changing kaleidoscope of colour and cloud, as early morning blends with day and day with night. Over the valley of the Dart and the Little Snowy to Mount Bogong and Mount Wills and the cattle country of the Bogong High Plains. And away to the east, past Pinnibar and the Jib, over the border beyond the blue expanse of the Indi Ranges, rise the mighty ramparts of Mount Kosciuszko, the highest mountain peak in Australia. While to the west lie the valleys and ridges of the headwaters of the Lightning Creek and the Mittamitta River. But the driver is well accustomed to these changing scenes and colours, and glances only here and there at the rich profusion of wild flowers which transform the forest floor on either side of the winding road, where the spring-flowering clematis, the colourful indigofera, the scented sun orchid, the hot bitter pea, and hosts of others add to the rich variety of native flora. Further along, a spring beside the road, and a bank of velvety moss and lichen suggest a cool-off on a hot day, with a chance to get rid of some of the dust which envelops the trailer for most of the journey down. In contrast to the mill settlement in the hills is a typical scene in the valley, where a sawmill is in operation in the picturesque township of Swift's Creek. Here, the children of the mill workers attend the small but modern school, where the boys, as usual, celebrate the end of another happy day. And so, home again to one of the neat row of houses provided by the mill management for employees and their families. Here again are stacks regimented for air drying. At this mill, almost the entire output is first quality hardwood flooring, cut from the forests of alpine ash high up on the snow line near Mount Delusion, 25 miles away. After the necessary air drying and the further few days in the kilns, the thousands upon thousands of sawn boards are then put one by one through the planing machines. Sawdust and shavings are not wasted. By a suction duct system delivered to a cyclone, they are drawn off from the mill machinery and conveyed to the furnaces to provide fuel for the boilers. And yet still another load of over 20,000 lineal feet, or almost 4 miles of flooring, leaves on its long journey to the city.
It is in the forest, however, that the man-made efficiency and streamlined operations of the mill are left behind. For it is in this type of dense bush that the logging operations depend upon the practical knowledge and ingenuity of the old hands, gained the hard way by years of experience in the handling of steel ropes and the rigging of bull wheels and pulley blocks, and their skill with axe and saw. Each tree is sawn into sections, usually about 30 feet, but sometimes up to 60 feet in length for haulage or snigging, as it is called, to the log landing. In the Victorian forests, two main methods of logging are employed, by tractor and by winch. The steam winch, a familiar sight in the bush for almost a century, has given place to the modern diesel-powered winch, one of which provides the motive power in this section of the mountain ash forest in the Otway ranges in southwestern Victoria. Instructions are conveyed to the winch driver at the other end of the rope, sometimes half a mile away, by pulling a signal wire. 1, stop, 2, forward, or 3, reverse. As each log is brought onto the landing, it is swung into its correct order for rolling onto the trailer. Outer log, center log, outer log, and so on, which, when loaded, will ensure correct balance of all logs are measured and volumes recorded either at the stump, at the landing, as is being done here, or at the Forests Commission checking stations along the main logging routes. Only trees indicated by the forestry staff are felled, and every foot of timber removed from the forest is accounted for. Tree felling is dangerous and exacting work. Each tree must be cut to fall in a selected position and in that position only. Otherwise, a valuable tree may be shattered as it hits the ground. Not many miles away, but at a considerably higher altitude in the alpine ash forest, another tree is being felled, but with a difference. Once again, modern methods replace the old. A chainsaw is in operation in this bush, where the absence of undergrowth enables the saw to be carried and used with comparative ease. Instead of the more familiar V of the axe scarf, two parallel saw cuts determine the direction of the fall. Meanwhile, back in the dense undergrowth of the mountain ash forest below Mount Baldhead, the logs are cut and ready to be snigged out. The terrific power of this 20-ton steel giant enables logs to be hauled from hitherto inaccessible areas, where the skill of the driver is matched in a constant battle against the forces of nature, the deep gullies, the steep mountain sides, the treacherous ground, all combining to make this operation one of considerable danger. Matched against the inventions of the machine age, the forest can never win. But sometimes it does claim its revenge. An error of judgment has cost many a driver his life. Once clear of the deep gullies, the hauling of the logs along the ridges and flatter country higher up becomes a matter of comparative ease, as the dozer trundles along with yet another 15-ton load trailing behind. With chocks in position, twitch chains tightened, the long load of mountain ash logs is ready to take the steep road down to the mill. And so it is, with the harvesting of the old, must come the sowing of the new. Trees will grow again, can be made to grow, and for the very existence of future generations, must continue to grow. The responsibility for the protection and management of our forest reserves must rest with the Forests Commission. The preservation of the forests from damage and fire must rest largely with the people, the landholders, the campers, the tourists and holidaymakers, with you and with me. Neither the scientist nor the forester, the landowner, tourist or camper acting separately can ensure the safety of our forests. It is only by the active cooperation of all sections of the community that the forest wealth of this state can be nurtured, protected and harvested, not only for ourselves, but also for the generations which will follow us in the years to come.